In One Piece, beneath the waves of grand adventure lies something far more personal. Behind its fantastical world are deeply human struggles that drive motivation, forge identity, and even cultivate self-destructive behaviors. By diving into the motivational psychology of One Piece, you'll discover not just a new and exciting way to appreciate the series, but also uncover how its larger-than-life characters mirror our own struggles, desires, and emotions. Let's uncover the psychology of what makes One Piece the greatest story of all time. Eiichirō Oda's One Piece has earned global recognition for its expansive world building and emotionally resonant character development. A defining feature of the series is Oda's ability to set up characters' backstories from the very beginning of this decades-long manga, crafting arcs of growth and motivation that is sustained throughout the story. Central to this strategy is the deliberate use of childhood flashbacks, which function as narrative devices that drive character decisions and thematic progression. It is this interplay between backstory, development, and plot that has fostered an ever-growing and loyal global fanbase, one that continues to passionately theorize and anticipate every unfolding detail as the story moves towards its ultimate destination, the elusive treasure known as the One Piece. These storylines function as psychological blueprints, shaping character motivations and behaviors through experiences of early deprivation of basic needs. These unmet needs refer to the essential conditions every individual requires to feel secure, valued, and connected in their formative years. When these needs go unfilled, they leave lasting emotional and psychological imprints that influence how individuals navigate adulthood. In this video essay series, I will demonstrate that One Piece offers a sustained exploration of human development and motivational psychology, presenting a fictional yet coherent model of how early life deprivation informs identity formation, coping strategies, and behavioral problems. In this series, I will be analyzing each member of the Straw Hat crew to show how each of their character journeys and their developmental trajectories can be understood using two complementary psychological frameworks: Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs and Ryan and Desi's self-determination theory. By embedding motivational structures within character arcs, Oda elevates One Piece beyond the conventional genre of storytelling into a nuanced exploration of the human condition. In a theory of human motivation, Maslow posited that human needs form a hierarchy of prepotency. When a lower-level need is unsatisfied, it dominates psychological life, limiting the pursuit of higher-level needs. According to Maslow, the most fundamental level of human need is physiological. These include basic survival requirements such as air, water, food, shelter, sleep, and reproduction. Maslow emphasized that unless these needs are adequately satisfied, all other needs become secondary. He noted that a person deprived of food for several days would focus almost exclusively on finding food, with other desires like friendship or self-respect becoming irrelevant in that moment. Once physiological needs are relatively satisfied, the next level involves safety and security. Maslow discussed this in terms of both physical safety, such as protection from violence or chaos, and psychological stability, like structure, order, and predictability. He pointed out that children often show this need more clearly, craving routine and fearing unfamiliar or uncontrolled situations. In adulthood, threats to safety, such as poverty, war, or unstable environments, can trigger regressive behavior or heightened anxiety. The third tier in Maslow's hierarchy is the need for love and belonging. This encompasses relationships with family, friends, intimate partners, and a sense of community. Maslow emphasized that when this need is unmet, individuals may experience loneliness, alienation, and deep social insecurity, even if their basic physiological and safety needs are fulfilled. He also noted that belonging involves both giving and receiving love. Esteem needs are divided into two forms: the desire for respect from others and the internal desire for self-respect. Maslow argued that satisfying esteem needs result in feelings of capability and self-worth, while their frustration can lead to inferiority, weakness, or helplessness. He also cautioned that the pursuit of esteem, when disconnected from real ability, may become neurotic or hollow. All of these needs, physiological, safety, love and belonging, and esteem, are considered deficiency needs. If an individual is meaningfully lacking in any of these needs, they are motivated to restore them. In contrast, Maslow suggested that individuals whose needs are met can develop greater emotional resilience, thus able to focus on their growth needs. These encompass cognitive, aesthetic, transcendence, and self-actualization. Cognitive needs refer to the drive for knowledge, understanding, curiosity, and the need for meaning. In narrative fiction, characters often express cognitive needs through the pursuit of truth. Aesthetic needs involve the appreciation and pursuit of art, music, nature, and other forms of aesthetic expression. Fulfilling these needs leads to a deeper sense of satisfaction and harmony in life, as individuals seek environments and experiences that are pleasing and resonant with their sense of beauty. When aesthetic needs are met, characters often find stability and direction, even in unstable environments. Aesthetic deprivation can result in a sense of inner disarray, or the feeling that life is emotionally or spiritually colorless. Transcendence needs are the desire to connect with a higher reality, purpose, or the universe. This level emphasizes spiritual connection, altruism, and helping others to achieve their potential. At the core of Maslow's hierarchy lies growth towards self-actualization, the process of becoming the fullest, most authentic version of oneself by embracing what is uniquely meaningful. This journey involves living in alignment with one's deepest values and purpose. Individuals move towards self-actualization only after they genuinely satisfy their deficiency needs, rather than fall into pseudo-satisfaction, a false sense of deficiency need fulfillment rooted in coping mechanisms, distorted reality, or unhealthy attachments that hinder real psychological growth. By eliminating these pseudo-satisfiers, they can find ways to truly satisfy their deficiency needs and progress towards self-actualization. Maslow's hierarchy is often misrepresented by the rigid pyramid model, a symbol he never introduced himself. This popular diagram oversimplifies his nuanced framework. The real theory allows for overlap, reversals, and situational fluidity. In fact, the pyramid metaphor is likely the most widely challenged aspect of Maslow's theory, not the core psychological principles it was meant to convey. Not all unmet needs lead to psychopathogenesis, the origins and development of psychological disorders or abnormal behaviors. A person may go without something they want without suffering psychological harm, provided that the deprivation does not symbolize or lead to deeper insecurity or loss. For instance, the loss of an ice cream cone is trivial for most children, but if the child interprets it as rejection or withdrawal of love from a caregiver, the deprivation becomes threatening. In OnePiece, both Luffy and Usopp have absent parents in their lives. However, only Usopp views this absence as a challenge to his personality, whereas Luffy appears indifferent in knowing the identity of his parents. It is important, then, to distinguish between a deprivation that is unimportant to the person, easily substituted for with few serious after effects, and a deprivation that is a threat to the personality, in other words, to the basic needs or the various coping systems that pseudo-satisfies them. Maslow identifies 4 types of ways a need can be threatened. Sheer choices are low-stake decisions between 2 minor alternatives with no lasting impact, such as Luffy deciding what to eat. choices between two paths to the same basic need involve selecting between different means to a shared goal, such as Zoro choosing to pursue his dream of becoming the world's greatest swordsman, either as a bounty hunter or as a pirate. Neither path threatens his underlying motivation. Threatening conflicts, by contrast, force the individual to choose between two basic needs, where satisfying one means sacrificing the other. For example, Robin must choose between her need for safety, running from the world government, and her need for love and belonging, protecting her crewmates. Finally, catastrophic conflicts involve situations where all options lead to the thwarting of basic needs. This might better be called pure threat, with no alternative or possibilities of choice. These include the murder of Nami's adoptive mother Bellemere, Sanji's starvation, and Robin's witnessing of O'Hara's genocide. In analyzing traumatic flashbacks in One Piece, we can apply Maslow's distinction between types of conflict, with a particular focus on catastrophic conflicts, those that pose the greatest psychological threat and are most clearly associated with the development of psychopathology. Social systems play a critical role in shaping human behavior. Social systems refer to the structured environments, relationships, and institutions that significantly influence individuals' behavior and well-being. In One Piece, these systems include highly structured institutions, such as the world government, geographically isolated communities like islands and villages, and pirate crews. Self-determination theory, developed by Ryan and Desi, offer a comprehensive framework for understanding how social systems can either enhance or diminish a person's willingness to engage in that system. Self-determination theory distinguishes between three broad types of motivation when interacting with social systems: intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, and amotivation. Intrinsic motivation refers to engaging in a behavior for the inherent satisfaction derived from the behavior itself. For example, Luffy experiences true joy and pride when acting like a pirate. This form of motivation is most likely to occur when the social context supports the satisfaction of three psychological needs: autonomy, the experience of free will; competence, the sense of feeling effective; and relatedness, the feeling of connection with others. This results in greater enthusiasm and persistence of that behavior. Extrinsic motivation refers to social systems encouraging or discouraging certain behaviors by providing instrumental outcomes, rewards, or punishments, that is separate from the inherent satisfaction of the behavior itself. For example, the world government often uses bounties to elicit the behavior of defeating and imprisoning pirates. Since many behaviors are not intrinsically satisfying, social systems can manipulate the perception of autonomy, competence, and relatedness to make individuals value the behavior and perform these behaviors willingly and sustainably without being explicitly reminded or compelled. Organismic integration theory explains the process through which behaviors are internalized by regulators, leading individuals to become motivated to engage in those behaviors autonomously. It outlines a continuum of regulators: external, introjected, identified, and integrated, each representing increasing levels of internalization of behaviors. At the least autonomous end is external regulation, where behavior is controlled entirely by external contingencies. For example, Nami does Arlong's bidding to secure safety for Kokoyashi Village. Slightly more internalized is introjected regulation, in which behaviors are driven by internal pressures such as guilt, shame, or contingent self-worth, yet are not fully accepted as one's own. For example, Zoro trains to become the world's greatest swordsman because of the guilt brought on by Kuina's death. Identified regulation represents a more autonomous form, where the individual consciously values the activity and accepts it as personally important. For example, Sanji feeds Gin because he understands the value of food to those starving. At the most self-determined end of the extrinsic spectrum is integrated regulation, where the behavior is fully assimilated into one's identity and coherent with one's values, although still performed for separate outcomes. For example, Frankie works on the Sea Train project not only because he identifies as a shipwright, but also to secure Tom's freedom from the world government. Organismic integration theory emphasizes that when people internalize external regulators in environments that satisfy needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness, the behavior is increasingly associated with consequences similar to those produced by intrinsic motivation. They are more likely to engage in behaviors willingly and sustainably. When these needs go unsatisfied, behaviors rely solely on external regulators and run the risk of deteriorating altogether to amotivation. Amotivation reflects a state in which individuals lack intentionality. It arises when people perceive no connection between their actions and valued outcomes, often accompanied by feelings of incompetence, indifference, or helplessness. This state is associated with disengagement, poor performance, and reduced psychological functioning. Green-Demers, Pelletier, and Toussaint identify 4 types of amotivation. Capacity beliefs, where individuals doubt their ability to perform the behavior. For example, Usopp runs away from Sugar because he doubts his ability to defeat her. Strategy beliefs involve skepticism that the behavior will lead to the desired outcome. For example, Luffy decides he does not want to stop the rebellion in Alabasta because he does not believe it will address the true problem, which is Crocodile. Effort beliefs, where the behavior is seen as too demanding relative to one's willingness to exert effort. For example, Zoro manages to sleep through a storm because he was unwilling to exert effort at the time. Helplessness beliefs reflect a global perception that one's efforts are futile given the perceived magnitude of the task. For example, Nami becomes helpless in the face of Arlong when she realizes that she can no longer save her village on her own. These subtypes of amotivation help explain the psychological processes through which individuals become disengaged, ultimately leading them to withdraw or leave these social systems. Each character's developmental arc was examined in 3 stages. First, in the analysis of Maslow unmet deficiency needs. This was done by identifying how the character's deficiency needs were being met during childhood, determining the defining event that creates a situation where the need can no longer be fulfilled, describing how the character interprets or internalizes the threat or loss of the need, and then examine how the character's behaviors, thoughts, or emotions reflect neurotic symptoms or adaptive coping strategies that arise specifically from the unmet need. The second stage will look at social system engagement, an analysis of key arcs where characters voluntarily integrate into a group that helps fulfill unmet deficiency needs as described by Maslow, examining how perceived fulfillment of their psychological needs, autonomy, competence, and relatedness determines their participation in the social system. Finally, we'll look at growth towards self-actualization and identify moments where characters exhibit dissatisfaction with the satisfiers of unmet childhood needs, or when neurotic coping mechanisms no longer satisfy these needs. For those already exemplifying self-actualization, we will look at the growth needs that continue to drive their personal development beyond basic need fulfillment. Together, these insights reveal that One Piece is not merely a whimsical tale of pirates, but a psychologically rich narrative that illuminates the universal pursuit of growth, purpose, and self-actualization. By diving into the motivational psychology of Zoro, we can unravel how his unwavering code of honor also becomes the very force that endangers his journey to become the world's greatest swordsman. Until next time, keep sailing the seas of self-discovery, one chapter at a time.